Have you ever thought about being in a movie or maybe making a movie? Well, I know I have. And many of you that know me well, I talk about this a lot, looking at movies, Errol Flynn, you look at Roy Rogers, and all of those movies, Magnificent Seven. And yes, I've always thought about maybe someday I could make a movie. Well, guess what? Coming up next, you're going to meet my nephew, Reggie Henderson, who's a producer and a director, and he lives here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, this is Mark Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
Welcome to Motivation. I'm Ron Henderson. Sitting here with my guest actually is my nephew, Reggie Henderson. Reggie, welcome to Motivation. And he's going to have a good grip because he's family. He's going to be a little strong there. And Reggie, yes, you're my nephew, but years ago I found out that you were doing some things that I wasn't even aware of. But before we get in there and talk about your career you're a director, you're producing movies, which I'm fascinated by the way, let's get into your background a little bit. Where did you grow up? A little history about you, Reggie.
Well, I grew up in North Minneapolis, primarily North Side Project, because we used to call it off of Olson Memorial Projects that are no longer there. Was in London for a few years. I was a military brat, but always home based.
Okay, so you were in the military?
No, I was a military brat.
Military brat, okay.
So which means my stepfather at the time was Air Force.
Okay. Did you graduate from school in Minneapolis or out of town?
Southwest. Yeah. So
okay.
I was here in Minnesota. So Minnesota's pretty much been my home for all my life, with the exception of 4 years.
Okay. Now, we know that you're doing movies and different things right now, but when you grew up, what were you involved in? I mean, what did you have affinity to? Were you an actor?
I was in theater in high school.
Were you ever the lead?
No, I was never the lead. I was always more or less putting everything together, But I did do some acting, whether it was we didn't have enough characters or enough people to play the role, so I would step in. But I was always usually pretty much behind the scenes. I had written several plays for my high school at the time.
And what inspired you even in high school to actually write?
Just my love for telling stories. I've always liked stories. I would joke with my friends, our top 5 best movies that we liked. Mine were always on the kind of drama, serious side. And that kind of always resonated with me, even as a young kid.
Okay. So folks at home, you're watching Motivation with my guest and nephew, that's right, Reggie Henderson. He's talking about how when he was younger, things resonating with him. He kind of liked telling stories. He liked writing. And the reason I'm talking like this is because, again, motivation is about motivating you to get out there and take the next step in your life. Maybe you thought about writing a book. Maybe you thought about making a movie, okay? So you go from high school. Did you go to college? Did you take training in movies?
Went to film school.
Film school, where?
Yeah, Film in the Cities was the only film school that was here. It was right off Raymond and University in St. Paul, early 90s. So I went there.
And what is that like, if I can interrupt you?
Well, it's completely different as it was now, because then we were learning kind of like the old way, using film, cutting and editing film,
old
16
school.
millimeter, completely different. But it kind of showed you the true sense of how to do film. But it was once I was in it, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Is it a year program, 2-year program?
I was like a couple years. It was several different courses that you would get certified.
2 years. Folks, I don't have 2 years. So
it's no longer there.
I'm checking for myself.
Yeah. No, that school is no longer there. And, it's a shame. I really enjoyed that school.
Okay, sounds good. What do you do currently?
Well, currently I am president of Soul Tools Media.
Okay. And what is that?
It's a multimedia company. We specialize in radio, film, music. Music has been our driving force for probably the last 10 years. We produce several artist, Toki Wright, who's one of the biggest artists, who had an album, Different Mirror, that was on Rhyme Sayers, and several other smaller independent pieces. And then probably as the last maybe 5-6 years, we kind of started going back into the film part of it as well. But we also have a radio show every Saturday night on KFAI called Soul Tunes Radio.
Okay, what time is that on?
From 9 p.m. to 11.
Okay, what's it called again?
Soul Tunes Radio on KFAI.
Okay, tell the folks at home.
Soul Tunes Radio every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 11 on KFI.
All right. You know, it's funny. People ask me this. They say, sometimes when I watch Motivation, it seems like you're actually staring at me. I say, yeah, I'm staring at them because I want them to be able to see my eyes so they know that what I'm talking about, I'm saying it in such a way that I want it to help change people's lives, because everybody has a dream, but how many people are actually stepping out?
Yeah.
We're working on a new project right now that I can't talk about. People say, well, what if it fails? Well, what if it succeeds? Yeah. You just got to step out. You just got to do it, see?
Sure.
So let's get into the first movie. How did you write it? How did it come about? And what was the name of the first movie?
The name of my first movie was Bahamian Son, and that's not Bohemian, it's Bahamian.
Bohemian.
Yeah.
I always say
Son.
Bohemian.
Yeah, well, there's two different things. You know, Bahamian is more or less the culture of it. You know, Bohemian is another thing we won't talk about.
Okay.
But Bahamian Son is the name of my first independent feature. And it was semi-autobiographical, based on myself and meeting my father for the first time. And so who was Bahamian, and my mom being here from North Minneapolis, your sister.
My sister, Renee Henderson.
And meeting him for the first time. So it was a big juxtaposition to me and my mom and my sister at the time living in the Olson Memorial Projects. Kind of, getting by, and finding out my father had this very, very lavish lifestyle. He was a president of a major bank, obviously from the Bahamas, so he was always surrounded by warmer weather. And meeting him and having that face-to-face interaction.
Okay, and what year did you write that? Before the movie came out, when did you actually write it?
Oh, man, I wrote it probably back in 2009, because that's when I actually found my father.
Okay, 2009.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's actually funny because I was on a video shoot for Toki Wright, and I was talking to one of the directors there just after I got back from the Bahamas meeting my father, and he was like, "Man, that would make a great story." And I was like, "Man, you're right." And so at that point, I kind of started writing it, and we put it together.
How many times did you rewrite the story? When you write something, because a story like that. See, I saw your movie, and for me, I'd be like, I'd be crying. So you got to pick it up, write again because you got it all wet.
Yeah.
Got to redo it. So let's be honest. How many times did you have to rewrite it?
I
had to bring some tears to your eyes writing that.
Yeah, it was very healing in a way, But I had to write it 2 times, and it was so lengthy that when I got it to the producer that helped me on it, it's like, we got to chop this down. It's way too much, So we even chopped it down even more to the content that we have now. But I usually when you're writing, and from the time you're writing to the actual time you're on the shoot, you can go through several variations of the script.
Yeah. Okay. So you had somebody help with re-editing a little bit too? The final time, once we got it ready for the set. Yeah. And how did your dad feel about that when he saw the movie?
Did
it blow him away?
Well, we're still in an estranged relationship. Because the major component of the story is that he has in the Bahamas they have this kind of, I don't want to say this, in the Bahamas they have something that's called outside children. So you have your main relationship with kids, and then you have several kids outside the relationship. And because we're talking about the islands, one man could have several kids on multiple islands and not really pay any attention or any claim to them, because the Bahamas doesn't have anything like the United States where you're
a little different.
Yeah, in the United States you have too many kids, the government's going to step in and say, take your driver's license, things of that nature. And in the Bahamas there really is no such thing holding men accountable. So when I first met him, we kind of had this standoffish approach. He was very regretful for not keeping in contact. And I was, fine with that. I was ready to move on, but I think he still kind of held on to some bad feelings. So, I don't know if he even seen the movie. I know he knew it was out, and I know my siblings on his side are aware of it, and some of them seen it and, were crying because they're also the byproduct of the same similar circumstance, because he has, 5 kids with his main wife, then he has like 6 or 7 outside of that relationship.
So let me ask you this question. So how many people are talking to you now because you made a movie that they wish they could be in, but they were talking to you in the movie? That always happens.
Yeah. I get quite a few people that say they want to be in my next project. And I'm not opposed to that. I think it's just a matter about, does it call for it, does it fit?
Okay. So what are you working on now? You did the Bohemian. Tell us what you wrote and what you're working on.
I'm working on my next project called Government Gang.
Okay.
And the Government Gang is a period piece. I'm a big fan of period pieces and dramas. And the Government Gang is...
What year when you say period piece?
This is going to be throughout the 1920s through the 1940s. So pretty much through Prohibition, the Great Depression. And,
are you in it?
That's
Folks at home, I asked my nephew.
that for the main piece, that's yet to be seen. I am in a small piece in the pilot episode that we did. It's basically a pilot that highlights a group of men that turned to life of crime after the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riots.
So like an hour? Is it an hour movie? What is it?
The pilot is actually only 18 minutes.
Okay.
And it's pretty much a concept piece that's letting investors know this is a small snapshot of what a bigger picture
of what
is
you're
that
working on doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and Tulsa early 1900s, Tulsa was one of the biggest black communities, along with North Carolina, New York, Chicago. Thriving community full of wealthy black businessmen and women who took pride in their community and in their culture and in their business. And as it has been with a lot of circumstances back then, neighboring town that was primarily white establishment accused a young man of doing something that later was unfounded, and out of that, a group of angry white lynch mob type folks burned the city to the ground.
Okay.
And out of that frustration grew this character and this group of men called the Government Gang. So it's historical references, but the characters are fictional.
Okay, so the Government Gang, who put that together?
Me, myself.
History-wise, I'm saying, who are you depicting somebody in history?
Nope. It's a what we call a historical fiction.
Okay.
So the characters are fictional, but of course, being in the 1900s, the circumstances around it are historical.
Right.
Like Black Wall Street is very much a real thing that happened. As well as, like I said, Wilmington, North Carolina had a very big, prominent community that was destroyed. The biggest one everybody probably knows is Rosewood, which was in Florida. That was tore down. And so this is just another piece of that.
So the people in this gang, are they successful people? Are they prominent?
Well, that's the thing that I want to highlight, because especially. And again, I'm a person that really loves dramas and things like that. And not that I think that a lot of movies that are depicted of us during that time frame are pretty much stereotypical.
Right, a lot of them are.
But they are, And this is, showing, again, this was a very, very wealthy community. They even had white people coming to patronize their business.
Right, they're kind of the opposite.
And so they came from this wealth. But out of the burning, several failed attempts to rebuild, this is all historical and actual. It just overwhelmed them with resentment, hate, anger toward the establishment and what happened. And then out of that grew the fictional characters that I wrote, which is the Government.
Right. Now I know you brought along a little trailer piece. Can we go to that little trailer piece and come back and talk about that?
Yep.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right up with the trailer piece to The Government Gang.
You tell me what I want to know, and I'll kill you quick like a sick dog. heard you've been hustling with the gift of gab, and you're not getting any help from me. American people, we speak English here.
A weakness has been exposed.
What am I missing?
There's a snake among us.
So you know who I am. Then you should know it's not you I want.
Welcome back to Motivation. If you just tuned in, I'm Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, with my guest and nephew, Reggie Henderson. Now, we just watched that piece, Reggie, of your new movie, Government Gang. Can you tell us a little bit? It's about a minute 16 or something trailer. What happened in that scene, and what was it representing?
Well, it's like I said, it's a concept piece.
Oh, yeah, 'cause I see you in there holding a lot of money in your hand. I'm like, what's up?
Yeah, you know.
I want some of that.
I don't want to give
I
away.
want some of that.
I don't want to give away too much, but like I said, I love period pieces. I love, and within that, I also love mob pieces. I love gangster movies. You know, so these guys turn out to be some notorious gangsters. You know.
Right. Were you a gangster growing up? Be honest.
No.
I was a little gangster.
Yeah, you was more gangster.
I was a little gangster growing up.
gangster.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I got in security work. I could handle myself.
Yes. Moby Dicks.
Yeah.
Back in the day. No, but we're talking about classic, you know, Capone, you know, Nitty type.
Oh yeah, I like
gangsters,
all
you
that.
know.
I like all that. Mm-hmm.
And who's to say that, you know, we can't have that, you know, in movies.
Right.
So again, taking the historical elements of it, and then creating some fictional characters based on the historical elements. So in that clip is a minute teaser that leads up to our 18-minute pilot, which is what we're pitching to try to get funded for a bigger piece.
Oh, yeah.
And we're actually going to be launching that in February.
Okay.
So February is going to be our big launch.
And where are you launching that out? How are you getting the word out on that?
Well, we're going to do crowdfunding. I know some investors that are going to be coming, and we're going to have this big gala where we're going to actually show the whole 18-minute piece in its entirety, where people can see and get a snapshot and a feel of what the bigger project's going to be.
Do you have
like.
a website or something that people go to if they're interested in getting involved with the movie as far as fundraising? Or?
Yep, soultools.com, www.soultools, S-O-U-L, tools like a hammer, .com. That's our main site, and we'll soon have that information for the Government Gang, because we're going to do one big launch of it and one big push. But you can also go to that site, see our artists, see what events we have coming up.
Can anybody get involved, or do you have to have soul?
Oh, you got to have soul. You got to have soul.
You got to have soul.
Yeah, or else, you know, you can't participate.
Right,
That's
exactly.
our one requirement. You got to, you know, have some substance about you. You got to have some genuineness about you. Everybody in our collective is some real good people, and that's what I like to work with.
Sounds good. So you got somebody out there listening to the show right now, and they've thought about maybe doing it. What would you say to encourage that person to actually, you know, I talked about taking that step. I mean, honestly, because you're somebody, like you said, you grew up over north. I mean, I lived at the same address over there on Humboldt, 501 Humboldt Avenue North. I lived on Hillside Avenue North. I lived all over north, 1711 Newton Avenue, you know, James Avenue North, okay? So coming out of that environment, what would you say to somebody that's thought about maybe doing what you're doing? Any words of encouragement to them?
Oh, man, yeah, I got several. I mean, for one, it's never too late, you know, especially if you're talking about film and artistry. There's no age limit for that, which is a great thing, because like I said, I did film early 90s, kind of went away from it, got into music, and, you know, by meeting my father, kind of found my way back into it, you know, so it's never too late. And don't listen to naysayers, just do it, you know. Don't be afraid to spend your own money. You know, I think one of the biggest things is that to do this pilot and to do part of Bahamian Son, I knew that if I wanted to get it done, and I wanted people to take me serious about
Oh, yeah.
it, I had to, dig in my pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's
and,
true.
You have to do that, So go for it. Don't be afraid to fall. Don't be afraid to fail. Accept criticism. That's one of my things I had to work on as well, especially during my first project. I was like, okay, I don't know everything, so let me get people that do know everything
Sure. Oh, yeah.
about this business, and then really take their suggestions to heart.
Yep. Are there any schools that you'd recommend somebody that's thinking about it?
Well,
Twin Cities, what is there?
Well, music-wise, if we're talking about music,
No, movie-wise.
well, movie-wise,
Everybody wants to be like, they want to be a director and a producer. Come on.
well, I mean, again, I kind of dabble in both,
Right.
But movie-wise, there's nothing to me.
Would you say theater here? Where would they go?
Well, theater, there's tons of.
So what would
places
help
to
them
go,
if they wanted to write a movie or get involved like you're doing?
Just start, just write, just write your ideas out on paper.
Yep.
Technology is where it is now, to where you can go like, how do I do this? Go to YouTube, type, how do I? Get tons of tutorials there that'll help you
Yep.
out. Cameras such as the cameras we're on now are very, very, very cost effective,
Yep,
but look
yep.
great.
Yep.
And can highlight it and try it, and buy some lights, buy a couple of things. It's go the DIY route, and
Right.
you can really, really be successful. And if you think about it, that's kind of the way entertainment is going in general.
Oh, yeah.
From independent companies to Netflix was a DIY.
Yep, yep. Oh, yeah.
If you want to see smaller independent movies, go to Netflix. People now, iTunes has allowed people to put their own music on. So I'm not so much of a fan of having to go to school, having to learn these
Sure.
things in the process. And the funny thing is that I was also a studio rat. I used to hang out in Flight Time
Yep.
quite a bit. And Flight Time was a big studio owned by Jimmy Jam,
Yep,
Terry Lewis,
yep,
who produced
yep.
Janet Jackson, and things of that nature. And I remember an intern coming in to apply for to be an intern at Flight Time.
Yep.
And Jimmy Jam asked him, so what's your qualifications? And he's like, I went to Metro Studio School for this and that. And he looked at him and was like, okay, well, I won't let that, I won't
Hold that against you.
and he
Exactly.
was like, I'd rather have somebody who, was out there on the street
Oh, yeah.
trying things.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to fail.
I agree.
My thing is just go out and do it. If that's something you want to do. And the technology is where you can do it now.
Okay.
So,
What are your future plans for movies? And I want you to address that, but after that, tell me about your experience. I think you met Danny Glover too, didn't you?
yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
But what are your future plans?
My future plans is to foresee this project, The Government Gang, into its entirety, which is a full motion feature-length film.
Need any bodyguards in the movie, man?
Hey,
Any bouncers in the movie?
I might need somebody in the bar, in the speakeasy scene, hanging out in the back. So that's my main focus. As a company, we're also going to be producing several shorts, working on some new music with Toki and a couple of other artists. Just really pushing the envelope forward. And yeah, that's the main thing we're working on now.
Sounds good. Folks, I got to say this. I am excited about having him on today. I'm proud to have him on. He doesn't even realize how proud I am of him. What he's doing is tremendous because people think about what they want to do all the time, but they never do anything. And that's why I'm here on Motivation. And I say this sometimes. I do not get paid for the show. I don't make a cent off this show. It's about helping other people reach their goals, bringing them up a little step higher, okay? So I'm very proud of you, okay? I'm glad to call you my nephew. I'm very proud of you. I mean, he's too busy to even never get together. But I'm very proud of you because it's huge to do what you're doing. People don't understand it. You got to take that step. I don't care what it is, you go for it, okay? And we have things right now we're working on, like I said, behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm paying money for different things. I just got a fitness app done. I have some other things that I can't discuss, but you put your money where your mouth is. If you really believe in it, you spend the money. Only thing can happen is you don't succeed, but at least you've tried.
Or you don't eat.
Exactly. You're right. So
Might be hot dogs for a little bit, but
Yep. So folks, on that note, we're going to be closing Motivation. But again, thank you for tuning in Motivation with my guest, Reggie Henderson, who is my nephew, and he is the director and the producer of the new movie pilot coming out, The Government Gang. Remember this, if you're interested in getting involved in it, where can they go one last time?
They can go to soultools.com, or they can go to our Facebook page, Soul Tools Entertainment, or our Facebook page / The Government Gang. Like the page. We'll keep you updated on the developments as it happens.
That's right. And then you dig in those pockets, pull some of that money out. Pull some of that money out.
Please, help a brother out.
Help a brother out. On that note, I'm going to say what I always say. I want you to stay positive, stay motivated, and all that you do. We're going to see you next time on Motivation.